as we go through this weekend with some dry but bright weather at times, also a bit of...
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 10 million followers across our social media platforms. We're truly honoured to have your trust, one follower at a time.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the A702, both directions are restricted at Mauricewood roundabout due to a hazard. In Lancashire, the M55 eastbound between Junction 2 and Junction 1 has a crash with 2 of 3 lanes closed. In Surrey, the M25 anti-clockwise between Junction 6 and Junction 5 has an incident blocking 1 lane. In Rutland, the A1 southbound near the A151 and the A606 has a lane shut after a collision. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast is disrupted between Crewe and Wigan Northwestern or Runcorn, and TransPennine Express between Huddersfield and Manchester Victoria. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could become our biggest cash prize winner to date, as there's a simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Go on that dream holiday, buy that brand new car, or just relax in the knowledge that the rest of the year could be on us. But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
A very, very good evening to you, and welcome to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Coming up on the show tonight, is Donald Trump going to do it?
Bomb, bomb, Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran.
Will Donald Trump bomb Iran? Well, he has sent an armada its way with more power than entire countries, along with a very stern threat to the Ayatollahs. Time is running out to make a deal or face the consequences. And meanwhile,
today GB News is in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. I'm very, very pleased that sitting before me is somebody who's part of the government, Her Excellency Reem Al-Hashimi.
And we will be bringing you Nigel Farage's exclusive conversation in Dubai with the Emirati Minister Reem Al-Hashimi. And they covered everything from the exodus of Brits to the UAE.
And that is now the incredible fact that 250,000 British people are in Dubai alone. Why are they all coming to you?
To how the Emiratis have successfully quashed Islamist extremism.
Muslim faith celebrates differences as opposed to maligns the differences, and Islamist tendencies can be really, really rotten in that way.
Now, it's very, very rare that they give interviews like this, folks. It's going to be a big one. And finally, sombre and moving moment in Hostage Square as the clock finally stops after a tragic 843 days and the final remaining hostages' remains have been handed back to Israel by Hamas terrorists. On tonight's show, I'll be joined by an IDF spokesman later this evening for his take on a huge day in world politics. We've got an action-packed show. Don't go anywhere, but first of all, here's your latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you. Good evening to you. Just after 7 o'clock tonight, President Donald Trump has issued one of his starkest warnings yet to Iran, saying time is running out to agree to a nuclear deal. In a post early on his Truth Social platform, Mr. Trump said a massive armada of US warships is moving toward the region, describing the fleet as ready with speed and violence if necessary. He warned Iran to come to the table and accept a deal that guarantees it will not develop nuclear weapons, suggesting the next US move could be far more severe if talks fail. Iran, though, has pushed back, rejecting negotiations under military threat and warning any attack would be treated as an all-out war. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer has said the UK is making history as he begins the first visit to China by a Prime Minister from Britain in 8 years. Addressing a delegation of more than 50 British business and cultural leaders, the Prime Minister said that trip marks a reset in relations, moving away from what he called years of drifting between a golden age and an ice age with Beijing. Mr Starmer says the government wants a more consistent and hard-headed approach, engaging for Britain's national interest, but still raising areas of disagreement. He's due to meet President Xi Jinping tomorrow, with trade, investment and long-term economic ties high on the agenda, that alongside security and human rights. Back here at home, a heated clash at Prime Minister's questions today as Labour came under pressure over who really benefits from its pub tax break. The row follows the government's decision to give pubs and live music venues 15% off business rates. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith challenged David Lammy, claiming more than 90% of hospitality businesses will still get nothing from the government's plan.
If the party opposite knew anything about business, they would know this is too little too late. Our high streets, their high streets, are bleeding out.
David Lammy, though, well, he hit back, pointing to the Conservatives' record and insisting Labour is acting to keep pubs and music venues alive after years of closure.
All of us want to see our pubs in good health and to support hospitality. That's why the Chancellor announced a £4 billion package of support. I must say that contrasts with the party opposite, who of course saw 7,000 pubs closed under their watch.
Staying with politics, Kemi Badenoch has launched a fresh attack on both Labour and Reform UK today, accusing them of being, well, in her words, drama queens. In a speech to party members, the Conservative leader said she's focused on rebuilding, not blowing up the Tory party, taking a direct swipe at Nigel Farage along the way. She told supporters she wasn't elected to dismantle the Conservatives, so Nigel Farage can finally have a go, insisting voters want seriousness, not spectacle.
What we need are people who are going to help get Britain working again. And that means we have to be a truly Conservative party. So I won't apologise to those walking away because they don't like the new direction. We only want Conservatives. But to those who are defecting, who don't actually disagree with our policies, I will say, I'm sorry you didn't win the leadership contest. I'm sorry you didn't get a job in the shadow cabinet. I'm sorry you didn't get into the Lords, but you are not offering a plan to fix this country. This is a tantrum dressed up as politics.
And history has been made at the Church of England. Dame Sarah Mullally has been formally sworn in as Archbishop of Canterbury. She's the first woman to lead the church in 500 years of history. She was confirmed at a ceremony at St Paul's Cathedral today after nearly a decade as Bishop of London and a career that began far from the pulpit as England's chief nursing officer. She takes over from Justin Welby, of course, who stepped down following serious failings over safeguarding. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you for a full update at 8.
Thank you, Sam. Now, welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Dordman. I hope you're having a lovely day, unless, of course, you're the Iranian supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei.
Bomb, bomb, Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran.
In his own unique manner, taking to Truth Social earlier on today, President Donald Trump warned the Islamic Republic that a massive armada headed by the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln is now on its way to Iran, to the Persian Gulf, and that it will fulfill its mission with speed and violence if necessary if the mullahs don't come to the table to make a deal with the Trump administration. And well, that very USS Abraham Lincoln, known simply as the Abe, has more firepower than the Republic of Ireland. More firepower than the entire Kingdom of Belgium. And indeed, more firepower than most African nations. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, and Ayatollahs watching, the Abe is a nuclear-powered $16 billion floating island of death. And it's heading its way directly towards the Islamic Republic of Iran with, as Donald Trump put it, great power, enthusiasm and purpose. If the Ayatollah doesn't come to the table and make the deal the president wants, which means no more nuclear weapons, he surely will find out why Americans don't have free health care. And I'm joined now in the studio by Vahid Beheshti, the political activist and the founder of Iran Front, as well as tonight's panel. That's the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng, and the former Labour Defence Secretary, Jeff Hoon. Gentlemen, welcome one, hello. Welcome all. I must start with you tonight, Vahid Beheshti. You've been on my show before. You are desperately, desperately keen for the Ayatollah, the regime, to come to its withering final end. It seems tonight, with the Abraham Lincoln in the Persian Gulf, with Donald Trump seemingly intent on getting the job done, your country is a step nearer to freedom.
Definitely. Thank you for having me. First of all, I want to honour tens of thousands, my compatriots who sacrificed their lives not only for free, secular and democratic Iran, for the safety and security of the region and the entire world in fighting with this evil, dark, barbaric regime. So, yes, this is the closest that we come to this, to put an end to this evil regime. And these lives, these bloods, place a great responsibility, Martin, on our shoulder, which is continue their path with strength and full faith until the full, complete dismantlement of this evil regime. And this is not me. This is the message of Iranians from inside of Iran, especially in past few days. The internet getting a little bit better, not fully reconnected, talking to the leaders of different diversity, ethnic, religious, and political diversities. Their message is this: Iran is filled with rage after this massive massacre and anger. They are counting the second for US strike in order to take to the street again. So this is the message. So this is what regime created. An ocean of blood lies between us Iranians and this evil regime. So this is what they have been created. This is the spirit of Iranians. Look at the images that has been published past few days on social media. People are not grieving, are not crying in the funeral ceremony of their loved ones. They dancing, they clapping, and they saying, this is not the time for tear and mourning, that this is the time for fight. With everything that we have. This crime against humanity, let me finish with this. This crime against humanity, it's unprecedented. Since World War II, the numbers now getting to 100,000 killed, more than 500,000 wounded. Civilian people, unarmed civilian people who took the street with their families, with their children, with their granddad and grandma, not to take their rights back. And they've been slaughtered like this.
And Vahid, as well as the sheer overwhelming numbers of casualties, as the internet flickered into life this past couple of days, aided by Starlink, of course, there had been a state-endorsed blackout. There was, however, some tragic news for you. I understand you've lost a cousin. You've lost your cousin, Arash, and you found out this morning.
This morning, Arash Beheshti, he's my cousin, 25 years old. Same as, yes, he's one of these 100,000 people who they sacrifice their lives, and they ask us to not mourning, to not waste our time on anything than fight with this regime, with everything that we have. But, as I said, Martin, give me 2 minutes. I've been asked by these people to place, to picture a scene for you. This is the regime for 47 years. In every gathering that they have, official and unofficial, every day they chanting death to America, death to Israel, death to United Kingdom, death to Western civilization, modern civilization. Same regime slaughtered its own people in this way. My question from all you gentlemen is that, what this regime would you truly think do to you if get a chance and get the opportunity and means? This is what we claim. Iranian people are fighting for all of us now, and they need military support. And when we are talking about military support, we are very clear. Let me make this clear. We are asking President Trump, he is a president of action. As far as we understand, he promised Iranian that help is on its way. So that's why Iranian people took to the street in this scale. So target the IRGC and Basij military bases, the house of Ayatollah Supreme Leader, the building of the parliament, the building of government, and the building of judiciary system.
OK, Vahid Beheshti, thank you so much for that emotional account there. I need to bring my panel in for some reaction. Jeff Hoon, if I may come to you first, obviously as a former Defence Secretary yourself, this is precarious. But as Vahid said there, surely now this is the time for action to decapitate this evil regime.
Well, I can't add to that condemnation from someone who's had personal experience, but I know just how evil, how barbaric, how medieval the Iranian regime is. It's slaughtered its own people, and it has caused huge damage across the Middle East and beyond. It funded Hezbollah, it funded Hamas, it continues to fund the Houthis in Yemen, and bringing this regime down has clearly cost thousands of lives already in Iran. Brave people who've gone out onto the streets knowing the risks that they face. Iran is probably weaker today than it has ever been. Its surrogates in Lebanon, Hezbollah, all but on its knees. Hamas, all but destroyed. The Houthis are still there, but facing real resistance in their own country. The reality is this is a moment for decisive action to be taken.
Kwasi Kwarteng, bearing all of this in mind, that decisive action, should that involve Donald Trump now pulling the trigger?
I think he's going to go in and do that. And to be fair, as Vahid said, Trump, upped the ante. I mean, he did say, we all heard him say, that help is on its way. And of course, between him saying that and today, thousands of people have been killed. So, and now he's sending the huge, we used to call them gunboats 100 years ago. He sent huge aircraft carriers into the region. And I'd be surprised if nothing happened.
OK, gentlemen, we have to leave it there. Vahid Beheshti, thank you once again for joining us. And, rest in peace, your beloved cousin there, Arash. Thank you for joining us. Jeff, Kwasi, please stick with us for the rest of the show. Thank you, gentlemen. Now, in a moment's time, we'll be bringing you Nigel Farage's conversation exclusively in Dubai with the Emirati Minister Reem Al Hashimi. And they covered everything from the exodus of Brits to the UAE.
And that is now the incredible fact that 250,000 British people are in Dubai alone. Why are they all coming to you?
And to how the Emiratis have successfully quashed Islamist extremism.
Muslim faith celebrates differences as opposed to maligns the differences, and Islamist tendencies can be really, really rotten in that way.
It's very, very rare indeed. They give interviews like this, folks. It's going to be absolutely superb, and that's next.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Well, GB News is over in Dubai this week, speaking with Brits living abroad, connecting with the economic powerhouse that has attracted 250,000 of you Brits to move there. And where Brits are, GB News is there, talking to them. And indeed, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has been out there too. And earlier today, he spoke to the United Arab Emirates Minister of State for International Cooperation, Reem Al-Hashimi, on everything from the exodus of Brits to the UAE's crackdown on Islamist extremism.
Today, GB News is in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates. I'm very, very pleased that sitting before me is somebody who's part of the government, Her Excellency Reem Al-Hashimi. Thank you for coming on GB News. And we have a fascinating shared history between our countries. And it does seem to me there's actually quite a great affection for the United Kingdom amongst the people here.
There really is. We have such a historic relationship that spanned decades, really, and that's grown over time to also include a lot of investment, a lot of economic opportunities, cultural and educational opportunities. And over the years, we've been able to really build that out. I think trade last year was about £25 billion, growing at almost 10% a year. And we're looking forward to doing more with our UK partners.
Now, this city is just booming. I've never seen more construction cranes anywhere in the world. But there's been one change in our trade relationship and our human relationship, and that is now the incredible fact that 250,000 British people are in Dubai alone. Why are they all coming to you?
Well, it's not only British people who come. We have people from all over the world who see this city, who see this country as a destination that is safe, that has great economic opportunities, great school, great culture. And that's what attracts them to come and set up businesses and be part of the development story of the UAE. And we also have a little over 1 million British tourists as well. And last year, the UAE had close to 22 million tourists that came and visited. And these are the kinds of metrics, if you will, that really signal and cement that we are not just open to the world, but that we're also a comfortable, stable, safe space for people to come and live.
And of course, no income tax.
And no income tax.
No inheritance tax.
Yes, yes.
How does the economy work here? If people aren't paying tax, how does the economy work here?
Well, they contribute with incredible value to the society and to the economy. And the way we've set ourselves up was we use the oil wealth that we have to reinvest into the UAE government itself and, into the UAE country in terms of infrastructure, which is why you see our trains, our rails, our roads, our airports, our ports really top-notch. We also invest in our educational system so that our kids who travel abroad, who study, can come back and bring more to the economy. And now we've looked at really immersing ourselves in all things that are artificial intelligence, that are technology, that are innovation, and finding ways in which we could do so much more with a lot less. And those are the types of metrics, if you will, that we really put in place to ensure that this stays vibrant, that it constantly reinvents itself, and that it becomes an attractive place for people to come and live.
And for people from London who are increasingly worried about crime, these streets are genuinely safe.
Thank God.
Is that
yes.
because you have lots of policemen, or is it because you have tough penalties for
It's a
those that break the
combination.
law?
Yeah, it's a combination of factors, Nigel. I mean, we have a very serious zero tolerance for drug use, for example. We have some of the strongest penalties vis-a-vis that. But also we use technology to help enable us to curb crime, to prosecute it fervently, and to make sure that it doesn't perpetuate further. So the number of cameras in the street, the way the police really integrates well with ministries of interior, with actually even local communities who would call in a crime to be able to find ways in which they can stay safe. So there's it's interesting because our society has 200 different nationalities. So it's a microcosm really of the world that is here. Yet everybody has everybody else's back because everybody's invested in this incredible story, which is a country that is built to promote and to strengthen human dignity, human prosperity, and it's a really special place as well.
No, I think on Law and Order a bit we can learn on back in the United Kingdom. Now, what is interesting is, for many in the UK, they'll just say, it's the Middle East. But of course, there are enormous differences between the countries. The Abraham Accords were a really genuinely historic moment. And I notice that here we are in a Muslim country, and yet I met two British Jewish people last night who said to me they feel safer here than they do in parts of London. The UAE was a very prominent player in getting those agreements with Israel, wasn't it?
It was. It has always held a very strong commitment to not be a victim to historic past precedents and really chart a more positive path forward through dialogue, through debate. Opening up with the Israelis doesn't mean that we don't have a debate and conversation with them, and on points that we disagree on. We've disagreed on many things vis-a-vis Gaza, for example. But that doesn't mean we can't continue to actively work about charting a Middle East that is more open to other nationalities as well. It's not just British Jews who feel safer here. It's also Christians who feel safer and Hindus who feel safer. Because here you don't walk around with your religion identifying who you are. That is a private relationship that you are entitled to have with your divine. Here it's about what you're contributing and bringing to the society. And if what you're contributing and bringing to the society is constructive and it's of value, then you're very welcome to stay here.
Now, you're the Minister for International Cooperation, which I know means travelling.
A lot of travelling.
And you've spent time in Washington as well.
Yes, I have.
How do you see the Donald Trump presidency? Is this a new world order?
It is, to a very large degree. Politics have been reframed in a large way. International affairs are very different from the days in which we studied it in college. But I tell you, President Trump has a very keen interest in reshaping and in charting a more peaceful Middle East. You see him active in Sudan. The UAE is part of the Quad for Sudan, and his leadership has really been able to try to put an end to the humanitarian crisis in Sudan. You see him with Gaza and with Israel, really through the Board of Peace, but also through the Gaza Executive Committee, really wanting to turn the tables and change the course of the last 70 years or so for the Palestinian people and their right to have their own country as well. And you see him across the board really actively engaging and ensuring that we don't just become victims of what's always been happening. We try to shape and curate a future that's actually more positive.
And of course, he has a lot to say about a very close neighbour of yours, Iran. Huge instability in Iran at the moment, big protests against this regime that's been there for over 4 decades. Is the US involvement in Iran helpful?
It depends on how you define involvement. We are not prescribing to the fact that there should be conflict with Iran or another war with Iran. We've been very clear about not wanting further escalation. The temperature in our region, Nigel, is on fire. We need to calm things down. We need to stabilize societies and communities. And we don't believe that another front, another war is going to help anybody.
No, well, it may happen on its own. We just don't know. The most interesting thing for a British audience, where there is an ongoing debate about the rise of extremism, about the rise of a brand of Islam that is frankly hostile to the host nation, in this case the United Kingdom, and an increasing debate around the Muslim Brotherhood and what role they may or may not play. And just, for our audience back at home, you prescribed, banned, declared a terrorist organisation, the Muslim Brotherhood, back in 2014. And you've been from what I can see, you've been very, very strict on radical extremism. Just explain that for a British audience.
So there's a real difference, in our view, between the faith and the religion, which, as I said earlier, is a private relationship one has with the divine, and between any attempt to politicize that religion, whether it's the Muslim faith through Islamist organizations such as the Muslim Brotherhood, or frankly, Nigel, any faith. And in some cases, just extremist language or extremist rhetoric is something that we absolutely abhor in the UAE. It's not something that we accept in any way, shape, or form. And for us, we see the Muslim Brotherhood as an Islamist organization that is very far away from Muslim values and Muslim principles as it's prescribed by the Holy Quran and by the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So whenever we see any type of religion or any type of grouping that politicizes a monotheistic faith or any faith of that nature, we develop a serious allergic reaction to that, because we know that the end objective of these organizations is manipulation and control. And so it's very important for the British audience, and frankly for all audiences, to really separate those that are religious, as I am, who pray, who have a strong connection to their faith. Again, a very spiritual, private, individual relationship with their God. And then those who will use the framework of an Islamist tendency that is rooted in a lot of violence, that despises the other, that calls for extremist action against anybody that is different from you. And if you see this country, and if you look at this city, you will see that there are, as I mentioned earlier, 200 different nationalities from all over the world. Muslim faith celebrates differences as opposed to maligns the differences. And Islamist tendencies can be really, really rotten in that way.
Your Excellency, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Indeed.
It's a pleasure.
Well, that's an expansive and a fascinating interview. And coming up back from the break, we'll be providing you with the full analysis of that conversation between Nigel Farage and Reem Al-Hashimi, the UAE Minister of State for International Cooperation. Don't go anywhere.
Good evening. I'm back with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, there's going to be some persistent rain pushing into the southwest again later tomorrow. But before all that, there's some mist, some fog, some murkiness to watch out for tonight. That's because there's a bit of a slack flow across the country. That slack flow leading to light winds, allowing for cloud to develop and then lower, bringing some mist, some fog and some murkiness for many places, particularly through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Towards the far northeast of the country, eastern Scotland in particular, quite wet here, some persistent rain, even some hill snow and showery outbreaks of rain towards the southwest. Temperatures for many won't be quite as low as they were last night, but nonetheless it could be a bit chilly, a touch of frost in some rural spots where we get any clear skies. Starting off tomorrow morning on a pretty damp note across much of northern and eastern Scotland. The rain's going to be a bit persistent at times, but not especially heavy, but we could see some further snow building up over the hills and mountains. Drier and brighter across western and southern parts of Scotland and towards the northeast of Northern Ireland, but some rain coming in from the south. And whilst across much of England and Wales it's going to be a largely dry start, it could also be quite cloudy, quite murky because of that mist and fog that's developing overnight. Then as we go through the day, not a huge amount of changes for many. Lots of places staying largely dry but quite cloudy and murky. Further rain towards the far northeast of the UK. But it's in the southwest where we have rain pushing its way in, and this could be quite persistent, could be quite heavy, could cause some further flooding issues. Temperatures, well, similar to today really, around average for the time of year. More wet weather to come as we go through Friday. That band of rain pushes its way northeastwards. Likely to see some impacts from the wet weather across Northern Ireland with some further flooding here and elsewhere. As that rain pushes its way further northwards, we could see some further hill snow as there's colder air across northern parts in particular. More changeable weather to come as we go through this weekend with some dry but bright weather at times, also a bit of rain.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Dodman. Now, before the break, we heard that fascinating interview with Nigel Farage, sat down with the UAE Minister of State for International Cooperation, Reem Al-Hashimi. And it's worth pointing out that 250,000 Brits now live in Dubai, drawn not just by the low tax, but by safety, by order and by the opportunity. Meanwhile, the interview posed the question as to why Islamic countries seem more willing than we are to confront Islamist extremism head-on. Well, I'm joined now in the studio by my panel. That's the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng, and the former Labour Defence Secretary, Geoff Hume. Gentlemen, it was a fascinating interview, and I have to say that Reem Al-Hashimi's English was so good, it's better than mine. Maybe it says more about me as a lad from Nottingham. But on a serious point, let's talk first about the economy. Clearly, a lot of Brits are going to Dubai for obvious reasons. No tax is a big benefit. But some of the figures, Geoff Hume, are startling. 16,500 millionaires, we believe, have fled this country since the Labour Party got into power. 250,000 Brits now live in Dubai. 30 to 40,000 annually are fleeing this nation and going to the UAE. Searchers have moved to Dubai are up by 324%. We have to address the notion, Geoff Hume, is this because this Labour government is simply driving away our brightest and our best, and places like Dubai are the perfect landing pad?
I think you'll find, if you look at the same figures for previous years, a large number of young people like to go to other countries to work, to live. Actually, most of them then come back at some stage in their lives. They've been to America, they've been to the Middle East. One of the attractions of Dubai, which you haven't mentioned, is actually businesses conducted in English there. So it's a very attractive place for young people to go and have an experience of life, to learn something new, to see how business internationally is conducted, because Dubai is a great centre for trade right across the world. But they come back. And one of the reasons they come back, for example, you mentioned zero tax. They come back partly as well because there are zero pensions. So UAE doesn't want a lot of old people, and it doesn't make it comfortable and easy for people to live the rest of their lives in their country.
But Kwasi Kwarteng, the point is we have these economic powerhouse individuals, these demographic, these are the people you want to stay in your nation. Yeah, are we driving them away?
Geoff has given a very good, rather bland, if I may say so, nothing to see here, defence of the government. I, as you would expect, would say it's blindingly obvious to me, if you whack up taxes to the extent that this government has, you're going to drive a lot of talented people away. It happened in the 70s. They called it the brain drain in those days, when people were paying a top rate of tax, the richest people at 83%.
Driven by socialism.
By socialism. And we're seeing, I mean, it's not as bad as 83%. I mean, I'll give them that. But Taxes have gone up to like 66 billion in the last two budgets. Income tax thresholds have stayed the same, so more people are being dragged into that. You've got new taxes like the mansion tax, which affects very high earners. You've got new taxes, VAT on private schools, all sorts of things are being introduced. And a lot of people, and I know them, 30-year-olds, 28-year-olds are looking at this and thinking, you know what, I think I'm going to put my chance, seek opportunities elsewhere. And Jeff is right. They may come back. They may spend 5-10 years and decide, actually, we want to go back to Britain. But they won't come back to Britain if they feel that there are no opportunities and there's a dying economy here.
OK, gentlemen, let's move on to what I thought was another incredible point, the second standout one, and that is the fact that a Muslim nation has proscribed the Muslim Brotherhood 12 years ago, to the point now where there's an incredible story, Jeff Hoon, last week, that they are no longer subsidising their brightest and best to come to British universities because they fear their citizens, Muslim citizens, will be radicalised at British universities on British soil and go back to their nation as a malign influence. It asks the question, do we need to follow the suit of the UAE and prescribe the Muslim Brotherhood and address the Islamist extremism on our own soil?
Listening to that excellent presentation by the Minister, I was reminded of various conversations I had on a fairly regular basis with the Sultan of Oman. Oman is a neighbouring country to the UAE. And he pointed out that in traditional Muslim countries, there is a religious authority over all of the imams who might be preaching. And moreover, there's a close connection with the secular authority, which clearly we saw there in the interview. And he made the point that the problem in the UK, and at the time there was great controversy about a particular preacher in London. There was great controversy because there was no overall authority. There was no one saying this is the way in which the Muslim faith should be interpreted for all Muslims. And in the circumstances, the Sultan said that actually he would never have allowed such an individual to have such prominence and exposure. Indeed, he said that someone doing that in Oman would spend their time breaking rocks in the desert. And I thought that was a pretty tough response.
And the point here is that Reem al-Hashimi made the point there that we will not tolerate the politicisation of a faith they've stamped out, and we need to follow suit here.
Look, so just in the interest of balance, UAE is a very impressive country. Dubai is doing very well. But this is not an earthly paradise. There's a very strong central authority, there's a monarchy, and they keep things, pretty on a straight and narrow. And in that respect, of course, they're going to ban the Muslim Brotherhood. I object to the Muslim Brotherhood, they should be banned. But we're operating in a very different political system. Over there, the Crown Prince or the King says this is what we're going to do.
But does the famous liberal tolerance we have in the West allow poison to fester?
I think we have an issue. But we can't simply say, well, they do this and they get people to break rocks in the desert. We should do the same.
Well, why not?
A totally different. A lot of viewers would like that, but it's just the way the politics operates here means that we can't get to that outcome as easily as they can, where essentially one man rules the government. That's what they do.
OK, gentlemen, a fascinating conversation. Thank you for your expertise. As ever, Jeff Hoon, Kwasi Kwarteng. Let's move on, because coming up in just a moment's time. A sombre and deeply moving moment in Hostage Square as the clock finally stops after a tragic 843 days. The final remaining hostages' remains have now been handed back to Israel by Hamas terrorists, and I'll be joined by an IDF spokesperson in just a moment's time. That's next.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
It's been very Unsettled across southern Europe so far this week, and there is more heavy thundery rain to come, even some significant hill snow through the next few days. Tomorrow is going to be very wet across much of Spain, Portugal and also North Morocco. Several hundred millimetres of rain building up through this week, and it's also very unsettled further east across the Mediterranean. Strong winds leading to large waves and also some heavy thundery rain. More changeable weather to come into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, Martin Daubney. And after 843 days of heartache, Israel's Hostage Square clock stopped for the final time last night as the remains of the last hostage held in Gaza was returned. Yes, on Monday, the body of the final hostage, 24-year-old police sergeant Ran Gavili, was returned to Israel and laid to rest earlier today in a ceremony attended by thousands of mourners. Now, with Gavili's body finally returned, can the nation now slowly begin to heal? Well, joining me to discuss this is the IDF spokesman, Lieutenant Colonel Nadav Shoshani. Welcome to the show, Mr. Shoshani. It's a pleasure to have your company. And indeed, the countdown of that clock, 843 days long, happened on Holocaust Memorial Day yesterday. An incredibly sombre and meaningful moment. Tell us what it meant to you.
Well, thanks for having me. Absolutely, that was an amazing moment for Israel. It's something we've been fighting for almost 2 years and a half, something that young Men and women left their homes and family, went on reserve duty and risked their lives. And sadly, hundreds of soldiers that lost their life in the mission of fighting this jihadi terror organization and on the mission of rescuing our brothers and sisters who were kidnapped, young men and women who were kidnapped, most of them civilians, on that day. And this is what we've been fighting for 2.5 years. So you can imagine the overjoy that the civilians in Israel had, taking off the pins, taking off the signs, and really, as you said, a first step in what can be a rehabilitation and a process for us to start moving forward from October 7th.
And a particular poignance, of course, on Holocaust Memorial Day, that this happened, a great gravitas, a great significance. How do you move forward from this situation, particularly because, of course, the situation isn't over? Hamas don't show any signs of stopping.
Well, as you said, a very special day. And for us, the commandment that we have, especially as the IDF, Israel Defense Forces, is never again. That's the commandment we have from the Holocaust. That's why we have a military to defend ourselves. And that's our main lesson from October 7th is never again. So moving forward, we have a commitment to the people of Israel, making sure we don't have thousands of jihadi terrorists on our border, just a minute's drive away from our civilians. And that's what we're working on. That is the process right now that we're in. And the main thing that needs to happen next for the security of Israel, for a better future for Israelis and Gazans, and for the rehabilitation of the Gaza Strip, is Hamas to disarm, which is the first sentence of the 20-point plan, is Gaza will be a terror-free zone. Hamas signed that agreement, and we expect them to fulfill it. That's the main thing that is the obstacle right now for the agreement to move forward for the better of Israelis and Gazans alike.
And the resolve you must have. I mean, there's a moment of closure. The clock stopped. The final remains laid to rest. But after that, there's a resolve in your spirit. I can hear it in your voice to make sure not only this never happens again, but to make sure you get the job done.
Exactly. When this war began, it's hard to look back. It feels like so long, but we set out two missions, saying one is bring back all the hostages, and the other one is make sure that Hamas is beaten and is not functioning as a terror organization anymore, as a jihadi terror army on our doorsteps. And we achieved the first goal yesterday, which is something, as I said, something we've been fighting for 2.5 years. Hundreds of young men and women that risked their lives. Sadly, hundreds of people that died in this special mission. People who said, I'm doing this because I have an obligation, and we as an army, as a nation, we have an obligation to every single one. This is our values, all for one, leave no man behind. And that's exactly what we did. And it's been a long and hard process with a lot of hard moments and a lot of happy moments. And we can finally say that part one of what we set to achieve has been achieved.
Thank you for joining us tonight on GB News. I sincerely appreciate your time, and I wish you happiness and peace moving forward as you try and rebuild your nation. I sincerely mean that. Thank you very much for joining us, the IDF spokesman, Lieutenant Colonel Nadav Shoshani. Thank you very much indeed. Get some reaction from my panel. I'm still joined by the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, that's Kwasi Kwarteng, and the former Labour Defence Secretary, Jeff Hoon, as well as Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, who's just joined me in the studio. Of course, State of the Nation is up next. Jeff Hoon, I shall start with you. One thing that really struck me about the poignancy of that, when we were talking yesterday about Holocaust Memorial Day in the United Kingdom, about how it's seemingly being forgotten. It's not being marked as often now in schools. Moments like that really crystallise the fact we can't let this slip.
Absolutely, and I thought never again, in the Lieutenant's words, was absolutely right. Never again, October the 7th, and the massacre of innocent men, women and children. Never again the kind of devastation that we've seen in Gaza. And the challenge now for the world, and particularly for Israel and the Palestinian community, is how they find a way of living together for the future, to ensure it's never again for any of those people.
Kwasi Kwarteng, I wonder if this never again moment, funny enough, tips back into our top story tonight, and that is about Donald Trump heading towards Iran. Hamas was funded by Iran. You know, these snakes all join up. Is that another point that underlines the fact there needs to be decisive action now in taking out the Ayatollah?
So I think the point the Lieutenant Colonel made about Hamas was very well made, because Hamas has been a thorn in the flesh of Israel for decades almost. well, more. And the fact that they've totally disabled that organisation is not only in itself a good thing, it also means that the influence of Iran in the region is reduced. And I think it sets up a scenario where Trump, who sent the aircraft carrier into the Gulf, may well decide that, you know, this is a tipping moment, and he will try and do his best to make sure that the mullahs in Tehran are removed.
So, Jacob Rees-Mogg, before we come on to what's on your menu on your show tonight, as the USS Abraham Lincoln amasses in the Persian Gulf, do you think it is time for Trump to make a decisive action and decapitate the Ayatollah's regime?
I would be very cautious. It's a very murderous regime. It's murdered tens of thousands of its own people, and it will carry on doing that. Our experience of removing evil leaders is not always successful. Libya became worse through the removal of Colonel Gaddafi, something one would never have thought was possible, and hundreds of thousands of people died in Iraq after Saddam Hussein went. So I think if there is a removal, it needs to be a Venezuelan-style one. It is not conceivable that the US will commit troops on the ground in Iran, and would be a terrible mistake if it did. So this is not an easy option for America, and it has to have thought through precisely what it wants to do.
Okay, so Jacob Rees-Mogg, State of the Nation is up next. Sir, what's on your menu?
Well, we're going to be much more domestic. We're coming back to migrants, that the government's policy of one in, one out, which means more than one in for everyone who goes out, plus 10,000 who've come in illegally, so nobody's actually doing it. It's not a scheme that is working, and the only way to get a control of illegal immigration is to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. That's not in itself sufficient, but it paves the way for the policies that would stop it. What's currently happening is we're giving the French lots of money, and they're taking this money, and they're not actually fulfilling their side of their bargain, partly because they can't, because none of the illegal immigrants want to come here under this scheme.
Perhaps it's time to defund the French. Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg is up next. State of the Nation. I'll see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Let's go.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. I'm back with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, there's going to be some persistent rain pushing into the southwest again later tomorrow. But before all that, there's some mist, some fog, some murkiness to watch out for tonight. That's because there's a bit of a slack flow across the country. That slack flow leading to light winds, allowing for cloud to develop and then lower, bringing some mist, some fog and some murkiness for many places, particularly through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Towards the far northeast of the country, eastern Scotland in particular, quite wet here, some persistent rain, even some hill snow and showery outbreaks of rain towards the southwest. Temperatures for many won't be quite as low as they were last night, but nonetheless it could be a bit chilly, a touch of frost in some rural spots where we get any clear skies. Starting off tomorrow morning on a pretty damp note across much of northern and eastern Scotland. The rain's going to be a bit persistent at times, but not especially heavy, but we could see some further snow building up over the hills and mountains. Drier and brighter across western and southern parts of Scotland and towards the northeast of Northern Ireland, but some rain coming in from the south. And whilst across much of England and Wales it's going to be a largely dry start, it could also be